straws were pulled. Congresswoman Hayworth drew the longest straw. She has elected to speak first and finish last. Pardon me? Excuse me?
Speaks last.
Thank you, Counselor.
No endorsements.
Thank you. No endorsements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for their opening remarks. Questions have been provided by the audience and through the Chamber website prior to the event and as well as this morning. Questions will be of general nature rather than to any specific candidate. I'm going to ask you to hold your applause. You can applause for the opening statement. You can applause for the closing statement. But please do not applause for the answers that are given for each question. I've asked each candidate to answer the question. There will be no disparaging remarks. No documents about either candidate's record or position may be used in this forum. All we want are answers to the questions. And with that, Ann Hayworth will start off with her opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Charlie. You've been such a strength for Dutchess County, the Chamber. Thank you, all the Chamber members, all the guests who are here this morning. And I hope you're all enjoying a wonderful breakfast here at the Poughkeepsie Grand. I'd like to give a kudos, as always, to a particular lady who makes sure that everything here runs smoothly. Maureen Kangas of our Poughkeepsie Grand. Charlie, when we talk about Think Local First, the Poughkeepsie Grand is a great example of what we all do together as a community. I had the privilege of being at the EDC Awards last night and celebrating the strength that Dutchess County has in its cultural offerings, its educational institutions, its community organizations, its healthcare, and of course, its business community. I have been thinking local and buying local and of course living local here in the Hudson Valley for 24 years now. Thank you. And I cherish this place, and I cherish the opportunity to serve you. And I do see so many familiar faces here this morning. I want to thank you right now for having shared so much of your lives, your organizations, our nonprofits, our community organizations that I've visited. Thinking of the Children's Home and the Center for Prevention of Child Abuse. I just had the privilege of being at their the opening of their, the start of their new project, their new building. I've been to many of our local businesses, and I've heard your stories. And it's my job to take what we live here, what you experience here, and use those lessons and that knowledge in Washington to make life here even better. We have such wonderful potential and such wonderful talent here in Dutchess County. Right now we have an economy that is not doing you justice. We need to have an economic climate that will let you grow and thrive. And we need a federal government that will trust you, and it certainly can, as I do, to make smart and sensible decisions in your own lives, in the life of your business, in the life of our community. So my job as your federal representative is to make sure that I lift the burdens that right now have been placed so heavily upon you by a federal government that has gone too far, that has reached too far. We need to bring the federal government to the right size to serve you. We need to make sure that the tax code serves you, that regulations don't choke your businesses, that energy prices do not thwart you in your everyday lives. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sean Patrick Maloney.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, Charlie. My name is Sean Patrick Maloney. You may know that I worked for President Clinton. You may know some things about me, but let me just start by telling you, a little bit about how I grew up and what my values are. I grew up in a small town of about 4,000 people. My father started his own business when I was very young, and it wasn't much when he started. He had a one-room office above the town library. My mom sat at the desk in front of him typing letters, and our dog was under that desk, and I used to go there every day after school. And when his business did a little better, he bought a little building, and my brothers and I went down and had to tear out the old carpet and patch up the roof, and I sanded the floors and put on polyurethane, and that's where his office was. And then my brothers joined that business with him, and they ran that business the whole time I was a kid. You know, when I was still in kindergarten, I can remember he put a little black telephone in the basement, and it would ring at all hours of the day and night and on the weekend because he had a landline installed in our basement that was to his office. Nobody had ever done that in our town, and so if you called Jim Maloney at 11 o'clock at night, you thought, man, he's still at work. And you got great customer service. Those were his values, and that's what put me in college. That's what put 6 of us. He saved a couple bucks every month for each of us to go to college. He had 5 sons and a daughter. So I got to go to college. I ended up going to law school. I went to the White House, and the proudest moment of my life is when I brought my dad in to meet President Bill Clinton. And I'll tell you what, he and my mom never thought they would be standing there in the Oval Office with the President of the United States, but it was his small business that put me there. And when I got out of the White House, that's what I did. I started the small business, and we grew that business. I know what it's like to meet a payroll. I know how hard it is to provide good benefits and good health insurance for your employees, to train them, to stick with them, to find good talent, to buy locally, to invest in your own community. That's what I did. And we were lucky enough to do pretty well, and we sold that company, and it's a thriving subsidiary of a software company today. Those are the values I want to take to Washington. We need to support small business. It is the backbone of America. And in the Clinton administration, I don't think we got everything right, but man, we got the big things right. And we grew this economy. We created 800,000 jobs right here in New York. I think all of you remember what it was like when we were paying down the debt, when we were running surpluses, when we had limitless possibilities still ahead of us. That's what we need to do again. And we can do that if we make good choices again, if we balance the budget responsibly in the right way, if we invest in our people, in infrastructure, in education, if we get out of the way of small business and let you do what you do so well. Those are the values I'm going to bring to Washington. If you give me your voice and your vote, I'm going to get up every day and I'm going to think about you, and I'm going to think about my own man. I'm going to think about what works in the lives of regular people, and that's the kind of partner I'm going to be for you in Washington. Thank you for your time this morning. I look forward to taking your questions.
Okay, we'll start with the questions. The first question will go to Nan Hayworth. And you both have mics at your stations. Congressman Hayworth, if elected, what can you do to stimulate job opportunity and economic growth here in the Hudson River Valley?
Well, I've had the privilege of talking with men and women in businesses, especially small businesses, which are of course the engine of growth in our economy. And whenever I go to visit a place, I ask, well, how's business? And most of the time I get, well, we're doing okay, but we could be doing even better. And then I'll ask, well, what can I do as your representative in Congress to help you? And one answer I got from a very nice lady who has started a small cafe in the village of Warwick in Orange County, which is one of our many beautiful towns here in the Hudson Valley. And she said, you know, you can help me the most by getting out of the way, by getting government out of the way, by taxing me less. She's burdened with a lot of taxes right now, state and local and federal. So she'd like us to help with that, and we can. She said, you know, the regulations that are coming out of Washington are making it very hard on me. I hear all the time, as you can imagine, about healthcare costs. And this is, the 2010 health law was meant to be helpful, but what it's meant is that people's insurance costs have skyrocketed. So we've been working in the House of Representatives as hard as we can to try to lift those burdens, to try to make sure that the federal government has a budget. We passed 2 budgets in the House of Representatives. Unfortunately, the Senate has not passed a budget. We passed repeal and replacement measures for the Affordable Care Act. Well-intentioned, but the wrong law. We've tried to work to mitigate the consequences of Dodd-Frank that make consumer credit so hard to come by. We need to have a Senate that works with us. We need to keep the House of Representatives with people like me who understand our local issues, who understand our local problems, and are dedicated to lifting those burdens. Because if we do that, if we get government out of your way, I know that you will rise and thrive on your own.
Sean, if elected, what can you do to stimulate job opportunity and economic growth here in the Hudson River Valley?
Is this on? Can you hear me now? There you go. Look, my family's been doing it for the last 16 years. My family started a business on the other side of the river. One of the things that business does is it helps construct and build green-friendly modular homes. This is great technology now where they can build super environmentally friendly and efficient homes. They can do them with modular construction in these amazing high-tech factories. And you can put these up anywhere at a fraction of the cost, and you can run them for a fraction of the cost. So we can create jobs in the process and make it cheaper to heat your home and cool your home all throughout the year. It's a company that builds these houses right in Port Jervis, over in Orange County. These are high-tech manufacturing jobs that has been part of what my family's been focused on for 16 years right here in the Hudson Valley. In addition to that, we can listen to people here who are telling us what they need from Washington. I mean, one of the things is to get out of their way. You bet, I agree with that. But man, if you're Jim Taylor over in Montgomery and you're trying to create a waste-to-energy plant that'll create renewable energy, 20 megawatts of renewable power, you need a federal partner too. He's got $45 million of his own money invested in it. He'll create 300 jobs tomorrow, right in a part of the valley that really needs them the most. But he needs a federal partner. So you've got to listen to folks when they say what they need. And that's not a Democrat or Republican issue. He's got the support of all the Republican local elected folks over there, and he's a Republican himself. But when you talk to him, he says, if I don't get a federal loan guarantee and get a little help so I can put my private financing in place, and a lot of you probably know what this is like, trying to get private financing, I'm dead in the water. That guy can create 300 jobs right there tomorrow. Those are good projects. We need to get these kind of green jobs, the economy of the future, in high-tech manufacturing right here in the Hudson Valley. It's what I've spent a good part of my time in government working on. I also created the Public-Private Partnership Commission in New York to get billions of dollars of investment spending going, public and private dollars working together. That's what we need to do in Washington.
Sean, how would you address concerns about costs for gasoline, home heating oil, and energy in general?
Oh, well, this is very important. I mean, look, one of the most important things the federal government does is to continue policies that will keep the energy prices low. If we don't have cheap energy in America, our economy is going to grind to a halt. But that doesn't mean that we should stay dependent forever on foreign oil, and it doesn't mean we should have to keep sending our kids overseas to fight wars that at their root are about our dependence on foreign oil. For example, we've got to keep going with things like wind power, production tax credit. A lot of the conservative folks in Washington don't want to support that. You'll kill the wind industry in America and all the jobs that go with it. We've got to keep investing in solar. We've got to keep at it. I'm a big fan of geothermal technology. We've got to invest in that. And we've got to invest in other renewables like the biomass energy project I just mentioned. He'll put, that guy I just mentioned, Jim Taylor, he'll put 20 megawatts of renewable power right on the grid right outside Stewart Airport. And he's got a long-term power purchasing agreement to do it with the Port Authority. He's right next door to Stewart Airport, right? So we've got to support projects like that that lower the price of renewable energies so that we can transition away from things like fossil fuels and things like Indian Point that present such terrible risk to us here in the Hudson Valley. But these require good choices. These require a federal government that says, look, we don't have all the answers, but man, we can support people and entrepreneurs who are out there risking their own capital, taking a chance at trying to do it. That's what Jim Taylor's doing. That's what the people I know in the wind and solar and geothermal industries are doing. And I want those jobs here. I want the Hudson Valley to lead the way on those jobs. But you're going to have someone in government who understands that it's their job to be your partner. And if you tell me to get out of the way, I will get out of the way. If you tell me you need a loan guarantee, I'm going to listen to you. And if you need help with something else, you're going to be able to call my office and get it. Because I view my job as a customer service representative. So whether it's helping you heat your home, whether it's helping you fill up the tank, it is my job to work for you. Thank you.
Nan, how would you address concerns about costs for gasoline and home heating oil and energy in general?
I'm exceedingly sympathetic to that because I have talked with I just talked with a plumbing contractor over the summer who said, you know, the cost of gasoline alone and diesel for his vehicles is something he can't afford to pass on to his customers in these tough economic times, and he needs something done about it now. A mom in Carmel who's paying $75 a tank for gas is going to have to cut down on her children's sports activities because she simply can't afford to drive them from place to place. We need energy solutions for the future, absolutely. And all of the above strategy, yes, but we need energy now. And everybody here knows, men and women in business know, supply and demand determines price. So we need to increase the supply of domestic energy today. In the House of Representatives, we have passed numerous pieces of legislation this year to try to get our domestic energy production going. You heard a big debate last night, of course, about energy production, but the fundamental fact is this. Gasoline, we all go to the pump, gasoline is hovering around $4 a gallon. If we build that pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline from Canada, that will help us immediately. That will put price pressure on foreign countries supplying oil to us immediately. If we activate our domestic drilling capabilities, our offshore drilling, that will help immediately. We need to look at these sources. We need to look at safe recovery of natural gas in the Marcellus Shale. It has to be done right. It has to be done with caution and care. That's why I commend Governor Cuomo for his approach. Clean, safe, and follow home rule. Let's do those things. Let's keep Indian Point open because that's a crucial source of local energy, and it only emits steam, not carbon. Great clean source. In the meantime, let's keep working absolutely on the whole portfolio of energy solutions for the future. But right now, you need relief so that we can get our economy going and support all the research that we need to have a clean, renewable future.
Sean, what would you do to promote efficient and effective government at the federal, state, and local levels?
Well, I've had the opportunity in my career to work at the federal, state, and local level, both in the public and the private sector. So I mentioned to you that I worked on the White House senior staff. I was the White House staff secretary. The job of the staff secretary is to handle the daily workload of the president and to review all of the materials that go to the president of the United States. It's a terrific way to get a solid grounding in everything that's coming across the desk of the president. It includes all the national security information and all of the decisions that he had to make. So when you're working side by side with Bill Clinton for 3 years, you get to see a lot about how the federal government works and doesn't work. I also had the opportunity to work for 2 governors in New York as the first deputy secretary. That's the #2 person in the governor's office. And what I focused on was education and infrastructure policy. So I mentioned I created the Public-Private Partnership Commission. This was an idea, my idea, to create billions of dollars of new infrastructure investment right here in the Hudson Valley and throughout New York with public dollars working alongside private dollars. I don't think the public sector has all the answer. I think we've got to partner with the public and private sector working together. And I've, of course, spent a lot of years working in the different communities I've had the opportunity to serve. But I think the #1 thing you got to do is you've got to see your job as partnering with folks in the private sector. So if you look at the walkway over the Hudson, for example, I mean, what a terrific example of where a public sector public servant like Maurice Hinchy saw an opportunity to help the local community. But it wouldn't have happened without private folks. It wouldn't have happened without visionaries like Rob Dyson and others who said we have a role to play alongside our public partner. And the public and the private sectors working together created something new, created something wonderful that is worth far more than the investment that was made in it, and restored something wonderful and made a whole connection and a whole destination that didn't exist before. That's the public and private sector working together, and that's what I've done throughout my career, and that's what I'll do if you give me a chance to serve you in Washington.
Dan, what would you do to promote efficient and effective government at the federal, state, and local levels?
We've all seen the effects of the attitude of the federal government over the past several years in its seemingly endless desire to take from you what you work so very hard for. I don't know anybody who works harder for a dollar than folks who actually have to run their own business and make a payroll. And I did it. I did it myself for 7 years. I grew my medical practice in Mount Kisco. And I know what it's like. And I worked 7 days a week on that practice. When you send your dollars to Washington, they have to be used wisely. They have to be directed toward purposes that make sense, that fulfill the responsibilities that the federal government has. And there are plenty of them. They ought to be on a budget. We have Social Security and Medicare to keep going for the future, for the seniors who depend on them. We have a national defense to take care of. We have veterans to honor. We have a social safety net that everybody agrees we need to maintain. So when we have a federal government that takes stimulus dollars, so-called stimulus dollars from you, because they came from you, and spends nearly $1 trillion worth of them, with the result being that we have 8.9% unemployment in Orange County, New York, above the national average. We have 43 months of 8% unemployment plus throughout the country. We know the federal government is not doing its job right. We need the federal government to stop trying to pick winners and losers in the private sector, such as Solyndra and many more that we can all name, and start focusing on what it needs to do according to a budget plan that we pass in the House of Representatives, not just once but twice. We need a federal government that understands that we have to grow an economy by keeping dollars in your pockets. You are the energy, you are the multiplier that makes opportunity, that makes jobs, that puts people back to work. And when we understand that, and we have a federal government that's restrained in the right size, we will succeed.
And what is your position on affordable health care?
Well, you know I'm a doctor. I practiced for 16 years in Mount Kisco. Cherish my patients, thank you. Cherish my patients. No one would ever object to the goals of that 2010 law. They're absolutely the right goals. Everybody should have access to good health care and should have affordable, portable health insurance. That law, unfortunately, was the wrong law, the wrong way to do it. And men and women throughout our Hudson Valley have told me, again, individuals, small businesses have told me that the only thing they've experienced, almost universally, is that it's become harder to afford their health insurance, not easier. That's a burden, that's a problem that you should not have and you don't deserve. What should we do differently? I would repeal that law and replace it, not return to what we had before. We need to do better. But how can we do better? 4-point plan. If they said, Nan, it's your job to do this, give us the plan. 1, make health savings accounts easy for everybody to get. The state of Indiana has done it in a great way for its state employees and Medicaid recipients. Healthy Indiana plan. Health savings accounts for everyone. Open up the insurance marketplace so that people can enjoy the benefits of choice and competition. Most folks in that case will buy catastrophic insurance at a much lower cost that covers the big expenses, which is what you need insurance for. 3, let's solve the uniquely American problem of excess liability. Jackpot justice, defensive medicine with real liability reform. That is crucial. And that's the 3rd element. 4, if we do those things for a very small amount, a very small surcharge per policy per month, we could fund all the needs of folks who have trouble obtaining insurance because of things like pre-existing conditions. We can do these things if we have the right attitude in Washington, and I intend to provide that for you.
Sean, what is your position on affordable health care?
The most important debate we're having right now about affordable health care involves Medicare. And the fact of the matter is I think it is a terrible, terrible mistake. The Ryan budget, which has been passed twice by the current Congressional House of Representatives, would end the guaranteed benefit of Medicare. It would break the Medicare promise once and for all. We've kept Medicare going for 47 years through all kinds of crises and all kinds of troubles. But the current gang in Washington wants to end the guaranteed benefit of Medicare. And they want to do that to give huge tax cuts disproportionately to the very wealthiest in our society. I think that's wrong. They also want to defund Planned Parenthood, which is a critically important organization here in the Hudson Valley. 31,000 families would not be getting health care if it weren't for Planned Parenthood. They would destroy that organization. And let's be very clear. Planned Parenthood, over 90% of what it does is provide breast cancer screenings, cervical cancer screenings, prenatal services, STT infection services. This is a critical part of the health care of the Hudson Valley. So to cripple Planned Parenthood and to end the guaranteed benefit of Medicare is exactly the wrong approach. Now, Healthy Indiana, we hear a lot about Healthy Indiana. This is a program that people on the other side of the aisle love to talk about. The fact of Healthy Indiana is that Healthy Indiana doesn't cover whole areas of services like maternity services. And Healthy Indiana was going broke until Governor Mitch Daniels bailed it out with, wait for it, stimulus dollars. The very stimulus dollars that Republicans have been complaining about actually bailed out Healthy Indiana because it wasn't working. And it had a huge deductible that people can't pay. And it's got all kinds of other problems that cap your benefits. So just like ending the guaranteed benefit of Medicare, Healthy Indiana's bright idea is that if we cap your benefits, if we don't give you as much as you need, we'll save some money. We can do much better than that, and we should fix what's wrong with the current health care law, but keep going forward.
Man, with job growth and business development at the forefront of this year's campaign, how would you propose to reform our educational system to help equip our young people for the new economy?
This is a crucial concern for our communities, for our parents, for, of course, the children who need the best training and the best education. We are so fortunate, so blessed in Dutchess County to have Dutchess Community College, to have Marist College, to have Vassar College. Marvelous institutions, of course, of advanced education. We need to provide the K through 12 strength that will get our students there and beyond. And of course, we need to respect the full range of vocations and professions that Americans deserve to have. So I would certainly do far more to empower our local communities. I sat down with Mayor Tyzik and with several pastors from the city of Poughkeepsie, and just to listen to their concerns. And they shared with me that their primary concern was with how our children were educated in their neighborhood schools right here in Poughkeepsie. And they want the power and the ability to control those resources within the community. Right now, we have a federal government that is taking from you, taking the products of your labor from you, your tax dollars, and somehow endeavoring to micromanage education in our communities. And it just doesn't work. What we need to do is to let those dollars remain with you so that our communities together can determine how to incentivize the best teachers, motivate the best students, reward excellence in education, sponsor charter schools that actually change the direction of education in innovative ways with the communities empowered to do those things. We have to listen to, respect, and respond to, and keep resources here in our community.
Sean, with job growth and business development at the forefront of this year's campaign, how would you propose to reform our educational system to help equip our young people for the new economy?
Well, this is very important. I think when I was in the governor's office, I focused a lot on education. I'm very proud that we increased K through 12 funding to record levels. We settled the Campaign for Fiscal Equity lawsuit. We took education funding from about $17 billion when we started up to, the plan was to $24 billion. We didn't quite get there because of the recession, but to about $22 billion a year. That's very important, and try to get those dollars to the communities who needed them the most. I also ran the program to create an endowment for the SUNY CUNY system, so they, like the private universities, would have a large endowment which they could use to fully fund the capital plan, hire 2,500 new faculty, invest in research and other new facilities. And this is a critically important part of our economic development, is to support public education for our kids. I think it's terrible kids come out of school with so much debt right now. I am a huge fan of letting kids pay down their college loans by community service, either in the military or working for their communities. I think it is wonderful if they could pay back loans as a percentage of their future income. I don't think we should be cutting Pell Grants like the current Republican Congress wants to do. And we must invest in community colleges more. We must invest in technical training more, because education increasingly must be about employment. It must be about moving into the workforce. I see too many kids in the Hudson Valley coming back home and living with their folks after 4 years of school, coming home with nothing but debt and no job. And this is a scandal. The cost of a college education is way too high in America, and it has too little to do with having a career and moving forward. We need to focus on getting people skills. And I think working in middle class people especially, need to be in an economy where they can get the skills they need and the training they need along the way. It's why when I was down yesterday at the training program for the steam fitters and the plumbers, these are programs that move young kids and young adults into a trade. That's the kind of thing we need to support, and that's the kind of educational reform I'd like to see in Hudson Valley.
Sean, last night in the presidential debate, we heard the candidates refer over and over to the middle class, but we heard little about the poor. What policies do you recommend for the poorest and the weakest in America?
When I got out of college, I had been accepted to law school, but I spent a year of my life working in a very poor area of Peru called Chimbote, in a little town outside of it called Samanco. Chimbote is a city of about 300,000 people living in very severe poverty, huddled around a couple of fish meal factories and a steel plant. I went there with the Jesuit program and worked alongside folks who had devoted their lives because of their faith to trying to show up with the poorest of the poor, who saw their relationship with Christ through building solidarity with people at the very margins of society. This is what I spent a year of my life doing, and what I learned in that experience is that we've got to keep investing in people. We can't leave anybody behind. We can't cut Head Start programs for kids and expect them to do as well. We can't end the guaranteed benefit of Medicare and expect people to be able to provide for themselves independently. We've got to make good choices, and we've got to break our addiction to spend more than we take in. Yes, but we also have to believe that we've all got to contribute and pay our fair share. And so I think it's absolutely important that we as a society judge ourselves by how we treat the least fortunate among us. My mom, every week of her life, delivered Meals on Wheels. I used to go with her and run up the steps and bring hot meals to seniors. My dad used to run Daffodil Days in our town to help folks with cancer. I mean, it starts with each one of us, right? And I think the Chamber is such a great example of that, because all of you don't just come together to promote your businesses, you come together to promote your community. You come together to help one another and to look out for the folks who are struggling here locally. When we start dividing America into, the 47% is productive and not, and all that kind of rhetoric, it turns my stomach. We are in this together, and I think in the Clinton administration we had the policies to move this all forward together.
Nan, last night in the presidential debate, we heard the candidates refer over and over to the middle class, but we heard little about the poor. What policies do you recommend for the poorest and the weakest in America?
Well, Charlie, for 3 years, I did my medical training in New York City, and for 3 full years of my ophthalmology residency, I cared for the poorest of the poor, and it was always a great privilege to provide them with the dignity and respect that they deserved, and to give my best to them. I care very much about making sure that we can afford every one of us, everyone in our community, the life that Americans expect to lead with dignity in a community that enjoys an abundance of the necessities of life, but also the riches that our culture can provide. The best way to do that is to have an economy that grows and will support the crucial work that we need to do together in all respects. So when we allow you as a business community to invest locally, to grow your businesses, to use the energy and the dedication, the devotion, the care that you put into what you do, to translate that into dollars that you can use to provide jobs to others, to hire others, who then have the dignity of a job, have the dignity of opportunity, can lift themselves out of poverty. That's a wonderful help. That's the greatest, that's the essence of being American. That's why my mother came here from England with almost nothing but her own energy and dignity to this country in 1948 to build a life for herself. And when we put those folks to work, then they contribute their dollars to the work of our government in maintaining the safety net that we all agree, including Medicare, which we in the House majority have been working with all our might to save. We can do those great things together.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a round of applause for tough job, but somebody's got to do it. And you know, you folks are out there wanting to do this. No matter what side of the aisle you favor, you both deserve kudos for stepping up to the plate and trying to make changes and keeping our country live and vibrant and economically sound. So I think they, again, deserve a round of applause. We're going to have our closing statements. I'm going to ask Sean Patrick Maloney to start. Sean?
Well, oh, excuse me. Well, thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Frank. Thank you to everyone this morning.
Hello. Look, it's true that the Congresswoman and I have sharp differences, but I also respect her service and I salute that. And I know from my experience in the public sector how hard it is to do her job, and I disagree with her very, very passionately about the future of the Hudson Valley, but I want to salute her for doing this with me, and I know how hard it is. Look, this election is a choice. The voters have nominated each of us to stand here before you and to debate the future. So let's have that debate. I think this is a choice between a Bill Clinton Democrat and a conservative member of the Tea Party who just have very different visions of America. My vision is to do what works, to balance the budget the right way, to grow this economy, to get money back in people's pockets. When I was in the White House, we brought the deficit down every year. We asked the very wealthiest to pay a little more. We cut government red tape. We reinvented government. We downsized agencies. We did what works. And the result was the longest period of economic expansion in American history. 800,000 jobs right here in New York. And we brought the deficit down to zero, ran surpluses. And if we had left those policies in place, just left them in place, we would not have a $16 trillion debt. Our debt today would be zero. We would have a debt-free country if we had just kept Bill Clinton's policies in place. And think about what we could do if we were a debt-free country. Think of the investments we can make in our communities, in our infrastructure, in our educational institutions, in our kids. These are choices we're making. This is what Congress does. I think the choices being made now are the wrong ones. I think Congress is broken. You've seen it. This Tea Party platform is not working. It is wrong to end the guaranteed benefit of Medicare. It is wrong to destroy Planned Parenthood, which is a critically important healthcare provider for our communities. And it's wrong to do it when we ask no sacrifices of those at the very top. There are no sacrifices in the Ryan budget for people like the Congresswoman and me who have been fortunate enough to do well. What is our sacrifice? If our sacrifice is to get another tax cut, I think that's wrong, and I think it divides America. And it will not balance the budget. It'll blow a hole in the deficit, a $5 trillion hole over the next 10 years, and we will never get back to zero in terms of paying down the deficit. We've been here before, and we can go forward together. But we've got to do what works. We've got to do what we've seen work. And what works is coming together, asking everybody to pitch in, pay their fair share, cut spending, you bet, but also ask the wealthiest to kick in as well. And if we do it together, we can grow the economy again. We can pay down the deficit to zero again, and we can move forward as one community. I'm asking for your support and your vote on November 6th, and thank you for your opportunity, this opportunity to speak to you this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, Congresswoman Nan Hayworth.
Thank you, Charlie. I remember 3 years ago when I was candidate Nan Hayworth. It is a privilege always to be with you. It is a warm, familiar feeling that I have here because, of course, I'm one of you. I have lived in the Hudson Valley for 24 years. I've raised my children here. I have cared for patients here. I established my practice here and built it from scratch, using the same kind of dedication and effort that you bring to what you do. We can deal with theoreticals, we can think about what if, but right now, we can think about the past, but right now we have to think together about what we face on the ground here in the Hudson Valley that I know so well because I have been among you and visiting our community organizations, our small businesses. our gatherings, small and large, of all kinds of groups, including, of course, our veterans, our seniors, and the chamber. And I commend you for all that you do. I want to be your partner in growing and thriving and doing so much better than we are doing now. Having had years of federal policies that have seen you and your hard work as a source of revenues for a federal government that has gone too far. Even if those reasons have been well-meaning, we have a federal government that right now spends more than $1 trillion every year, more than $1 trillion beyond what it takes in. If you ran your businesses that way, you would be out, as everyone here knows, if you ran your business that way without a budget, you'd be out of business in a heartbeat, and that would do no one any good. I want to see you do far better. We need to lift tax burdens. You are seen, when you run your small business, you know as an individual, so many people here, even when it's a pass-through, you are seen as rich. When they say millionaire, they mean small businesses, and it's way below $1 million that they're talking about in terms of income, in terms of what they want to tap into. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. We need to provide opportunity for everyone who needs it by lifting those tax burdens, by lifting regulatory burdens that are getting in your way in ways that do not need to be. We can be smart. We can be sensible. We can lower your energy costs, and we can do it with a House of Representatives as the model, because Democrats and Republicans have been working together in the House. I was on the conference committee that extended the payroll tax holiday with Democrats alike. We can do it together. I want to be your representative. I want that privilege, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you go and vote. Don't complain and not vote. Get out there and vote, and if you believe in each of these people, make sure you encourage others to vote. Many people say their vote doesn't count. Your vote counts because you can encourage other people to come out and vote as well. How about the two candidates rising, and how about a round of applause?
In November. Questions will be taken at the Palm Court on your way out. Please make your reservations for the October breakfast, and be sure to visit our nonprofits on the way out the door this morning. Make it a great day. Thank you.